And so how do we do that? Well, there's two things we can use to manage corn earworms. Both of these are organic. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a wonderful day. It is Monday, May 13th here in South Georgia. And on today's video, we're going to give a little update on our sweet corn here behind me, which is looking really good after that healing and fertilization we did about a week and a half ago. Going to talk about whether we need to hit it again or just let it roll. And also going to talk about corn earworms, when you need to start looking for some issues and how to solve those issues. So our Nirvana sweet corn here is looking really awesome. We side dressed this with some Nature Safe 1300 and healed it about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And it was only about 12 to 18 inches tall then. It has since shot up like crazy. It went from 18 inches tall to about knee high in just a matter of a week and a half, and it's almost waist high now. The leaves are nice and dark green. This is what we want to see. Now, as I told you earlier, I didn't get this sweet corn planted as early as I would have liked. I kind of missed my window with some cool spells and some heavy rains there at the end of March. I would have liked to have planted it in the middle of March, but we're going to be just fine here. And just as a side note to that, within the last week I have seen 2 plots of corn around here that already have tassels and ears on them. I saw some on the way to Valdosta, right around the Brooks County, Colquitt County line, and then I saw some more yesterday over near Albany, right across the street from Mark's Melon Patch. And so best I can figure, they must have planted around late February or early March, so you can get away with planting pretty early down here. Those folks are going to have some sweet corn probably in the next few weeks. Now, the last time we were out here side dressing and healing this corn when it was only 12 to 18 inches tall, I broke down our really simple corn fertilization plan, and I'll recap that real quick. So we put down a balanced fertilizer at planting. We use Coop Grow around here, and then when it's 12 to 18 inches tall, we give it a side dressing of nitrogen. We use the Nature Safe 1300. We also healed it after side dressing it with nitrogen. And then I told you, when the corn is about knee high, you may want to give it another round of nitrogen. But that third fertilization is optional, just depending on how your corn looks. Now, this corn is knee high to waist high in some spots, so this is when we would want to give it that third fertilization if we felt like it needed it. The leaves here are pretty dark green, and this is a fast maturing variety, so we could probably get away with not giving it any more nitrogen, but it's also not going to hurt to give it one more round. So we could hit it again with some 1300, or we could just let it roll. I really haven't made up my mind yet, but I probably need to make up my mind in the next few days before it gets too tall and too thick to really get in there. Now, I didn't really mention this on our last corn fertilization video, but that last fertilization, and sometimes that last or second healing, you'll hear a lot of the old timers refer to that as laying it by. So laying it by means leave it alone. And so what they're doing, they're going in there and fertilizing and side dressing that corn one more time, healing it one more time, and then they leave it alone. They don't cultivate it, they don't fertilize it anymore. So if you hear someone say, I laid my corn by the other day, that usually means that's the last fertilization or the last healing they're going to do. Now, when we planted these 6 double rows of Nirvana corn, which are planted 40 inches apart from drip tape line to drip tape line, I told you there are some advantages to doing it this way because you can get more corn out of a given area, but there are also some disadvantages to this technique. So we had to plant this corn by hand, which is a disadvantage because that takes longer. We also had to hill it by hand with a garden rake as opposed to using a wheel hoe. That's a disadvantage because that takes longer and requires more effort. And then another disadvantage is that the corn earworm is harder to treat or manage when we've got the corn planted so thick and the foliage is so dense out there. So I've been keeping a real close eye on these corn plants because I know we're going to get some worm pressure eventually. It's just a matter of time. I hadn't seen anything until the last couple days. I started noticing some nibbling on those leaves there. It hasn't gotten real bad yet, but that tells me it's coming. And so to effectively control corn earworms, once you get those ears forming on the plants, you've got to spray the silks. And I know from doing these double rows last year, once these corn plants get tall, it's so thick in there that it's really hard to get in there and spray those silks. And so that's why at this stage, before we've got any tassels or silks forming, I've got to make sure I keep that worm population at a minimum so that it's not a huge problem when we do get silks forming. And so how do we do that? Well, there's two things we can use to manage corn earworms. Both of these are organic. So you've got your BT here, and then we've got spinosad right here. Now, if you go online and do some research as far as what works better for corn earworm, BT or spinosad, you'll see some conflicting information out there. You'll see some people or some sites that say BT works better. Some will say spinosad works better. I've even seen in the comment section for some of our videos, some people swear by BT, some people prefer spinosad. And so let's start out talking about the BT. You'll find this in a couple different formulations. You'll find the liquid concentration like this right here. I think the mixing rate on this is about 1 to 2 ounces per gallon. So you just mix this up in your sprayer. And then you'll also find this powder here, which you also will mix up in your sprayer. These work the same, just a powder versus a liquid. So BT is a bacteria that's found inside commercial GMO corn plants. So you've basically got two versions of GMO corn. You've got the Roundup Ready corn, which can be sprayed with a glyphosate, kills the weeds but doesn't kill the corn plants. And then you've got the BT GMO corn, which basically has this bacteria inside the corn plants so the worms don't bother the plants. The commercial guys don't have to worry about worms on their sweet corn. So although organic, BT is used a decent amount by commercial farmers, whether they're using it in the GMO fashion, kind of infused within the corn plant, for lack of a better word, or just spraying it on the plant. So yes, this stuff does work on worms. It only works on worms though. It will treat tomato hornworms, cabbage worms, basically any kind of worm you have in your garden, BT will take care of it, but it's just for worms. Spinosad, on the other hand, is a little stronger and will kill more than just worms. And you'll find this stuff under several different brand names or labels. This is the Monterey brand, and here's the Captain Jack's brand. So spinosad's a lot more powerful. It will kill a lot more than just worms in your backyard garden. I really like using it on a wide range of plants, but because it's more powerful, it is a little more rougher on the pollinators than say BT is. And that's why I recommend, if you're spraying spinosad, spray it late in the evenings once the pollinators have kind of gone to bed. So you can use either one, whatever you have on hand. I tend to use more of the spinosad because I use it for other pests in the garden as well. I can just mix up a tank of this and spray it on everything, not just the corn. And so when we're applying those organic controls at this stage, we want to walk down both sides of the row, spray up and down the plants, get as much leaf coverage as possible. And so given the fact that we're already seeing some worm damage, I should probably give my sweet corn an application of spinosad later this afternoon. Problem is, in about an hour, hour and a half, it's supposed to start flooding around here and rain for about a day and a half. And that's kind of the tricky part when trying to control corn earworms. You don't really want to spray before it rains because it can just wash it all off the plant. So you gotta kind of pick your spots a little bit. So I'll wait till this rain is past in the next day or so. Then I'll give an application when we've got a nice window of say 3 to 4 days without any rain. And I'll try to keep applying it every 1 to 2 weeks, just based on what the weather is doing. I don't want to spray it before we're going to get any rain. I want to pick my window like I said, but I want to get on a regular application schedule, keep those earworms knocked back before we start getting ears forming. So that's my plan to minimize the worm damage on this sweet corn. Some people don't have a plan at all. They just let the worms do what they're going to do and take what they get. And I don't mind a little worm damage on the tip of the corn ears. You can usually just cut it off. They don't eat the whole ear. A lot of times they're just nibbling on the tip there, but it does slow down the processing quite a bit because you got to cut that worm damaged tip off. It just makes the whole shucking and cleaning the ears, makes that a little messier, slows things down a little bit. So I try to keep the worm damage to a minimum so we can process this corn fast, and we got some nice pretty ears to show everybody. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and let me know in the comments below what you do for corn earworms, if your strategy is a little different than mine. And if you want to see how we got this corn looking so nice and lush and green, watch this video right here where we'll go into detail on that 3-step fertilization plan and tell you how we keep our corn nice and healthy. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.